Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first Retrofit Engineer Roundtable of 2018, and thank you to 100 East Huron Condo Association for hosting us. I think I told a couple of you, this is our first residential building, and I'm very, very excited to hear the perspective from this kind of property about the issues they face, the changes they've made, the reason they've joined the retrofit program, the progress they've made, as you can see up here. And hopefully they can answer your questions that you might have about their systems, the journey they undertook, and just get some really good insight into opportunities that you may not have considered yet. So I'm going to keep my part short and simple and hand it over and allow them to take it from here to tell you about what they've done.
Great, thank you so much, Ellen. So welcome everybody to 100 East Huron Street Condominium Association. We're just thrilled to have everyone here today. Just to tell you a little bit about the building, and then I'll turn it over to our building engineer, Alex Huron, to share with you some of the achievements that the building has made in the last about 10 years in terms of increasing its energy efficiencies. So the building is 205 units, built in 1986, turned over to the Condo Association in 88. So that gives you a little bit idea of the size. It's a little bit misleading because we're on top of the commercial entity that has the ground floor through the 8th floor. So I think what we'll do is have Alex tell us a little bit about how this journey started in about 2007. He'll explain some of those technical things, and then we can take some questions.
So yeah, the building is, the entire building is about just over 1 million square feet. Residential portion of the building, about half of that. And we're completely separated as far as mechanical systems. Back in 2007, before we hired Huron Engineering to do energy audit, we started some retrofits on our own. Started installing frequency drives on our chillers, cooling towers, pumps and stuff. Then 2009, Huron was hired to perform energy audit, and they came out with a long list of recommendations. We picked the ones that make most sense. One of the biggest one was replacing electric boilers. We had two 12 million BTUs electric boilers, and we replaced them with high-efficiency gas boilers. So they had to design a new plant. In addition to boilers, we also replaced water heaters at the same time. On top of that project, we also upgraded our automation systems, replaced all new controllers, implemented some setback temperatures for nights. Most of our lights were retrofitted old electronic ballast. Old magnetic ballast, new electronic ballast, CFL LED lights. So the the project we're working right now is replacing our house pumps. So putting new house pumps with the frequency drives, new controllers, which probably gives you a good idea of what we've done so far.
Anybody have any questions about those processes or how the process started?
I have one just about the difference between, they all go through the budget process for the most part. How does the budget process work for the condo association? What time of year do you do it? How does it have to get presented? What is if you present a budget in August, when is it approved? Is it always approved? Because I know some of you go for years without a budget, or at least an approved budget, and you just kind of have to work with what you've got. So what is your process?
Sure. So the condominium associations adopt a budget annually. So typically the management company will start that process in June, and I usually present a completed budget to the board in the first week in September, and then it's typically adopted in October or November. But part of that process, backing up on that process, is working with the building engineer and the other consulting professionals whether it's Alara or other structural engineering firms for those capital projects, that process, it may very well start a year or 2 years ahead of when we're actually going to perhaps include that expenditure in a budget. But condominium associations also use what's called a reserve study. Are you familiar with what reserve studies are? So that is a process by which a consulting outside firm that specializes in building components and life cycle of building components comes to the building and does a full evaluation and gives the building a sort of a timeline of when they need to be replacing certain mechanicals. So they have a 30-year plan that they can work from, and we take a look at that a few years ahead of time and plan for those large projects so that they're incorporated into the budget. And then in terms of whether they do or don't pass, really comes down to the board of directors of the association to decide whether, taking all of that expert information together, whether the timing is right and the financing is right. Did that answer the question? Yeah. Great.
So basically, we started on the boiler conversion project, which is obviously a huge project. First time that was approved 2009, and then the economy crashed, the real estate market, so then they scratched the project, and we started back in 2000 and
it officially was done in the fall of 15. So we went through a couple of iterations until the time was right and the financing was right. But this was something that the building planned ahead for and paid for out of their reserves and planned ahead. Yeah, you've got it, Chuck. Yes.
So how did it work out? I mean, as far as savings and all that stuff, I mean, was it a positive thing as far as, I mean, the boiler systems and all that stuff, did you guys see significant savings over time?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to refer to my notes. So one of the key components of deciding whether to go forward was Alara assisting the board with what is that projected return on investment. They anticipated that it would be a 23% return in about 5 years. And as of last fall, it's 40%. They're already seeing 40%. So it's really been terrific. Now, part of what comes into play is gas prices, right? So that's another element that can affect the efficacy of that change. But there's no question that it was the right thing to do and paying off significantly.
Great.
Yes.
Were you able to take advantage of the people's gas incentives when you put in those?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that the lock and bars we paid on that project.
Correct.
Definitely.
How are individual apartments or condos controlled, and how does that affect the rest of the system?
As far as financially or
Mechanically?
So each unit, we provide them with hot or cold water, and they have fan cold units. So they have very minimum electric usage as far as for individual units.
Is there any type of metering device to know how much each unit is using in terms of?
Yes, they all have their own meters. Each unit has their own meters.
Right, and then through the Chicago Energy benchmarking, that data for the whole building, including some common areas and individual units, is tracked through the benchmarking process.
So each individual unit, you can determine how much heating or cooling they're using, or just they each have their own electric meter?
Just electric meter, just electricity. So basically, yeah, the entire building we measure how much each chiller or boiler usage is, and then we provide them hot or cold water.
I mean, that kind of presents an interesting challenge as far as how you guys try to get the residences to be engaged in the savings. I mean, have you guys put forth that? I mean, I just think it would be complicated in that circumstance. I mean, how do you drive that change for the economy when it's so many individual people that have their own prerogative? I mean, do you guys have any insight on how to get people engaged or what things that work for you guys? I mean, residents.
On an individual basis?
I mean, residents in general. I mean, how do you guys, if just seems complicated.
Like smart
commercial
thermostats
space,
or-
you have a lot more control versus someone's home. I didn't know what strategies you guys use to try to get them engaged in being efficient with energy.
Well, yeah, we always recommend better thermostats, better, more efficient lighting, more efficient water consumption. But I mean, we cannot control 100% of the side effects.
Circling back to that question, was
Yes.
your board interested in, at all in the efficiency aspect of this project, or was it much more the financial side? Did they want to hear both, or was it, until you came back and said that there's an incentive, was it much more about the fact that it would have to be planned for, it should be in the reserve, and then you could talk about the fact that it would have kind of an efficiency component to it?
You were really here at the, I get the impression that it was both. but
It's
you can share-
both. It's both. It's especially since the building is getting to the critical 30 years old building. So a lot of components are already scheduled to be replaced. And then why not take advantage and implement that energy saving as well?
That makes sense. That's an approach we see a lot of the time, but there are often times where they don't even want to hear about the efficiency part of it. You have to present a financial case. And then later, if you join a program like this, they're excited to talk about the upside that comes with, but it's not usually brought up, or not always brought up in the initial negotiations around the project.
One thing that I mentioned, one of the previous retrofits was, you guys do in terms of recycling efforts, how do people manage trash here? Is that something that the board looks at in terms of the sustainability of all the individuals involved? How does that work?
So we have a single stream source separated that conforms with the city ordinance. So there is recycling and trash chutes in the building. So yes, we do encourage folks to participate in that. But it's a pretty simple,
Okay.
pretty simple. Yeah.
I don't think I knew there was a city ordinance specifically that did that.
There is.
So that's good to know.
There it is.
What was the challenge in converting from electric to gas? Was there some mechanical space up on the roof? Or it was straightforward and then just
The-
put boosters?
We did have to add a booster for the gas. It's designing the boiler plant from the scratch. So all the exhausts had to be added, extra space, new building. Before we completed this project, building only had gas for domestic water heaters and for laundry room, which is on 9th floor. So we had to completely add another feet of gas line for the new boilers. So that was a big challenge designing the new plant.
How about the exhaust? It seems like that'd be a
Yes, it's
make or break.
exactly. So it's very tight, but it took a lot of planning, and there was a lot of challenges there.
How many stories did you have to go?
One and a half.
Oh.
1.5,
Where are the boilers located?
yeah. 50th floor. So top of the building.
Any other questions? Well, if you come up with any along the way, obviously, feel free to ask.
But literally anything that you can come up with, you or your engineering partner can come up with that can save gas is something that I can find money for. A couple blocks away from here on Lakeshore Drive, we've approved to pay for half of a project where in their boiler room, they're grabbing their intake air from their boiler down here at waist level. They're going to take their boiler, they're going to flip the intake air, and they're going to put a little duct up here and grab the air above the boiler. And we're giving them, there's like an 80-degree difference in the heating temperature, and that actually saves gas. And we're paying for half of that project. So come up with the craziest, and let's talk about it. So, That's all I have to say today. You do a study or whatever, and you come up with a dozen things you want to do. The top 5 get done because they have great ROIs. The medium ones may or may not get done, and the ones that still have, save gas but aren't awesome enough never get done. And a lot of that is just because there isn't a plan. There are plenty of buildings where they have a reserve, and they take maybe a third or eighth of whatever the savings was going to be off of that, and they wind up putting it somewhere, and they use that as their resource for other projects. But that needs like some sort of global plan in the building for somebody to think of that. The engineers are going to do that, the property managers are going to do it. But if everybody's on board and understands, we can continue to drop our costs down as we go, and we've got this pool of money sitting over here to do it with, that's effective. But you need to have the whole team on board from ownership on down. And that's kind of what these two strategic energy management concepts are.
Makes sense. Data again, and kind of our process as we move towards the fall, where we do our annual award ceremony. This is the award that this building received last year. They're very pretty, and I know everyone who hasn't gotten one definitely wants one. So, in order to get an award, here's kind of the process, and here's sort of where we are in that cycle. Currently, it is April. The deadline for benchmarking and getting all the data into the benchmarking tool is June 1st. And as a reminder, the energy benchmarking tool is Energy Star Portfolio Manager. It's the same one that you use when you report to the city under the city's law, and it's the same one that we use for Retrofit Chicago to track your progress. So basically the message is just get all the data in there by June 1st. Then we'll take a look at everything, and we create annual progress reports. It shows your property, what your baseline is, what your target is, how far you've gotten, and how much time you have to hit that target. So we'll send out those progress reports over the summer based on all that data that you are putting in by June 1st. Then we'll also, in the summer, open up the nominations for the awards. As a reminder, there's a few different types of awards. There's, of course, if you hit that 20% energy savings target, you automatically get this award. But then there's also awards for most valuable engineer, most valuable manager, and most innovative project. So those nominations will open up late summer. We'll take those, and then we'll have the judges take a look, and then the award ceremony is in the fall. So that's roughly the process. So all you really need to do now is make sure that data's in there, and then we will follow up and send out those progress reports over the summer after June 1st. Does that make sense? Any questions on that process? Okay, that's really where we are with Retrofit Chicago. One question I had, which I'd love your feedback on, we don't yet have a host for the June Engineer Roundtable. We've been working on a few different ideas, but a couple of buildings came back to us and said they really weren't able to host. We have a couple lined up for the later ones in August or September and December. But one idea I had is we could just do a workshop on Portfolio Manager. In June, I know a lot of you do the data inputs or have a consultant do that, so this workshop would not be focused on that. But once the data is in Portfolio Manager, how can you use the tool? How can you run some reports? How can you see your own baseline and how far you've gone instead of waiting for us to send a report to you? So just to raise up hands if that sounds interesting and we can work on something like that. Okay. Oh, that's really all the updates we had, although we do have a new program that's rolling out around renewable energy. So I'm going to ask my colleague Reggie to share a few words about that. She's here today.
And I also work at the mayor's office. We have an interesting new challenge that we'll be ready to launch in a couple weeks called the Chicago Renewable Energy Challenge. For those of you who don't know, the city of Chicago has committed to being 100% renewable for all municipal buildings by 2025. So we'd like to extend that offer to local organizations, everyone from Fortune 500 companies to local universities to nonprofits, what have you, who would also like to join us in this 100% renewable commitment. They would be founding members of our challenge, and they would have until 2035 to become 100% renewable. And we have a couple details on how exactly the program would work and how we plan for these organizations to reach 100%. If there's anyone that's eager to get more information or would like to join, I can give out my business card, and I hope to hear from y'all.